agenda meeting. We do apologize for the temperature in here. Our system is on the fritz, as you can probably tell. So we will speak quickly this afternoon. We Pledge of Allegiance and invocation, if she chooses, will be led by Councilwoman Coonrod this evening.
United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Councilwoman Coonrod. We do not have any special presentations this evening. Can I get a motion on our minutes? Do have a motion for the minutes. I do hear a second. Without objections, the minutes will stand. Ordinances on final reading this evening. Madam Clerk, under Finance, item A.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 2, Sections 2549, 2551, and 2552 regarding council approval not required for expenditures not exceeding $50,000, approval of expenditures exceeding $50,000, and when bids are required, and spending will be approved annually prior to passage of the budget.
Dr. Burrs. I have a motion and I have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, under Parks and Public Works, item B, please.
An ordinance closing and abandoning the right-of-way located in the 1600 block of Brown Street as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Do hear a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item C, please.
An ordinance closing and partially abandoning the right-of-way located in the 1600 block of East 28th Street as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Do have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Madam Clerk, item D.
An ordinance closing and abandoning a portion of the right-of-way located in the 1600 block of Belmont Avenue as detailed on the attached map subject to certain conditions.
Do hear a motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Madam Clerk, ordinances on first reading under Economic Development, item A.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 9, Division 1, Sections 9.2, 9.4, 9.5, and 9.6 relative to the Public Art Commission.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, Finance, item B, please.
An ordinance amending Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 31, Sewers, Mains, and Drainage, Article 8, Stormwater Management, Division 7, Fees, by deleting Section 31-358 relating to elderly, low-income, or disabled homeowner exemption from fees, which is not currently authorized under Tennessee law.
Dr. Burrs.
Move approval.
We do have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? We did cover this again in agenda session this afternoon. This does not remove the senior tax freeze or the assistance. It removes language that conflicts with Tennessee state law. Does not remove the programs the city is currently involved in. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under planning, item C, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to amend condition number 1 from ordinance number 13475 of previous case number 2019-0045 on part of an unplatted and unaddressed property on Fringe Road.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilman Henderson, I see no
Approval.
opposition. I have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor say aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Item D, please, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38, zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 5117 Gooden Lane, 1326 Mayfield Lane, and an unaddressed property in the 1400 block of Gad Road from R1 residential zone to R3 residential zone, subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilman Smith? Have a motion to approve. I have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Item E, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone property located at 1302 Gad Road from R2 residential zone to R3 MD moderate density zone subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do have an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilman Smith? Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item E carries. At this time, I will turn the chair over to Madam Vice Chair. Councilman.
I think for the benefit of the audience, it might help, and I'm noticing some kind of scanning over their agenda. It might help if we read the case number to identify rather than just the item.
Madam Clerk, can you add the case number to our caption read?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilman.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, if you can read item F.
Case number 2022-0097. An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone an unaddressed property in the 7500 block of Standard Gap Road from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone, subject to certain conditions.
Okay, is the applicant present? Okay, any opposition present? All right.
We're not judged.
All right, thank you, sir. All right. The applicant has the opportunity to come up and speak. Is that right? What are you?
Kim, you want to come do a presentation first, please?
Mhm.
While the slides are being pulled up, I can do an overview. This is a rezoning at the 7500 block of Standard Gap Road. It's just southwest of Silverdale. The request is rezoned from R1 to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone for 62 townhouse units. We did not have opposition at Planning Commission. Staff and Planning Commission recommended approval. The reasoning for that is that the request is compatible with the draft Area 11 plan. As you heard it today, Council Committee an update that plan was recommended for approval at Planning Commission yesterday. Staff and Planning Commission found the request is compatible with adjacent land uses and development form. And in order to assist with compatibility with the Twin Brook neighborhood to the south, staff recommended condition that the building that have rear yards abutting the shared property line have a maximum massing of 4 units per building. That condition was carried over by Planning Commission. And the applicant notified me that they would also like to propose 3 additional conditions. So I will I'll go briefly through the slide just to orient you. Again, the property is there highlighted in yellow, a little less than 8 acres. There's a purple is an M3 manufacturing zone shown across Standard Gap. And then to the east of the site, Silverdale is the R4 zone across Standard Gap Road. So going back to the proposed conditions, the condition number 1 is the condition that was recommended by Planning Commission, staff and carried over by Planning Commission. Condition 2, 3, and 4, I believe the applicant will speak to and wishes to propose those additional conditions.
All right, the applicant, you have 7 minutes.
Good evening, council. My name is Alan Jones with ASA Engineering over at 714 Cherry Street. So I'm working with both the property owner for this site. They're motivated to sell the site. It's under contract with the developer who would like to build townhomes for this site. When we looked at the design for this site, I was trying to be very mindful with the Twin Brook neighborhood that's behind this property. That's why we kind of left what I would call a pretty good buffer space between the townhomes and the single-family homes. As said in the report, in the introduction, there was no opposition at Planning Commission, but I did get wind that the folks at Twin Brook did have some concerns. So a few weeks ago, I did hold a neighborhood meeting at Mr. Hughes' house. Great host, so thank you. And at the meeting, we talked about potential conditions that might help ease or offset some of their concerns. I initially came in with a proposal for a 30-foot undisturbed buffer. And during the discussions, they asked, hey, could we do a 40-foot buffer? And then also talked about having a 6-foot privacy fence, and they asked if we could do a 10-foot fence. I told them I couldn't make that promise. I would go back to the developer and see if that was something they could commit to. After talking with the developer, a 40-foot buffer just wasn't really reasonable. Just really twofold, just eating up additional land for the property, but also just we're looking at single-family townhomes against single-family detached homes. The city of Chattanooga buffer requirements is 10 feet, and we're proposing 3 times that to do a 30-foot buffer. In addition, for the fence, instead of traditionally you'd put the fence right at the property line between the 2 properties, we're proposing to move that fence 30 feet back, so that way, essentially, the neighbors will see the 30-foot landscape buffer, and then the 6-foot fence, and then the development of the new townhomes will be behind them. In addition to that, one of the requests from the neighbors was to restrict the homes that were limited to 4 units, and limiting those to 2 stories in height instead of that 2.5 stories that's allowed. So that was one of the other asks of the neighborhood that we were able to incorporate into the proposed conditions. The change from the 30-foot undisturbed buffer that we had kind of discussed at the neighborhood meeting to the 30-foot buffer with only 20 feet being undisturbed is to achieve the type A landscape buffer for the city. We have to incorporate an evergreen screen, which is either within that 10-foot section, which is evergreen trees, or double row of evergreen shrubs. And to try to plant that within the existing 30-foot undisturbed buffer, it becomes challenging from a practicality standpoint. There are a lot of mature trees in this zone, so we want to be able to preserve those. So that 20-foot buffer is an effort to save a lot of those mature trees, and then using that extra 10 feet of disturbed landscape buffer to kind of infill with the evergreen screens. The only other one of the neighbors had kind of passed around an email the other day questioning where the actual boundary line is going to be. With most of the rezoning cases that I bring before you, we use the GIS data that's available, because most developers aren't going to go through the survey process and cost from a rezoning perspective. But once this property, if this rezoning moves forward and the property is sold, then we'll have a survey completed. And the survey of those boundary lines will use deeds and plats that are recorded with Hamilton County to establish exactly where those buffer lines are. And this 30-foot buffer and fence will be established from the actual survey lines and not from the GIS lines.
All right. Thank you so much. You still have 3 minutes. You good? Are you good?
I'm good.
Councilman Ledford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Alan, the property as it is zoned now, there is no buffer.
That's correct. Right now it's zoned R1.
So right now it's property line to property line.
Correct.
With no landscape buffer. Okay, so you're adding in, am I correct,
30 extra feet.
30 feet onto basically someone else's property? You're adding 30 feet?
Correct.
And a landscape buffer and then a fence.
That's correct.
And 20 feet of that is undisturbed.
Correct.
So under its current zoning, I always like to make sure I understand this. Under its current zoning, you could take out all the trees and nothing would be there.
Absolutely.
Okay, that's better than what you have. Tell me why city standards for not going above 6 feet on a fence.
So
I don't think we have any 10-foot walls
right
yet in District 4, but
I'm not
just
familiar.
tell me why.
I'm not familiar with any 10-foot. So really it comes down to when you look at the city code for a fence, once you get over 6 feet, it requires a whole separate permit. And those permits require every single footer to be inspected by the city. And it just adds a whole nother level of cost and regulation that just kind of makes it really a little more challenging.
Okay, and the last question on this condition is, if it were, as it's currently zoned, you could build 2.5 story homes?
It's 2.5 stories or 35 feet.
Or 35 feet, that's where I was going. So 35 feet. And how far off would that be from the neighboring property line? 25 feet?
So right now, we've got the homes, I have a dimension, with the 30-foot buffer, and the homes are showing as 25, about 25 feet. So the homes are, the back of the home is about 55 feet
Okay,
from the
so-
property line.
From a neighboring perspective, as it's zoned today, trees get removed completely, and I'm staring into, with no fence,
Right.
staring into the back of someone's house at 25 feet.
Yes, currently, the current setback is
Okay,
25
I
feet.
just think that's good to understand in context. And you've met, and I know you and I have spoken or emailed, and I've asked you to go and meet, and I think you've done that. So now you're providing these conditions, and I appreciate what you've done. You've created a tremendous amount of barrier, and I think that respects the wishes. So that's all the questions I have for you right now. Oh, the boundary line. We don't use GIS for surveys.
No,
And
no.
you stated that you would actually conduct a survey, the correct method, and you would, then those conditions
Mhm.
would be based on what that survey would reveal. So
Correct.
wherever that line is, that would be corrected.
Right. Once we get, once we get into construction drawings,
rezoning.
we'll have a field survey conducted
Okay,
by a professional surveyor.
Okay.
And we'll use that for our construction drawings.
thank you, because I want to make sure that that survey is done correctly, and wherever that survey line is and shown, that's where the conditions start to apply.
That's
All right,
correct.
That's all I have for you right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, opposition, are you, opposition present? You will have a total of 9 minutes, so remember that as you're coming up. It's a total of 9 minutes.
Council members, thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I'm just one of several members. I don't want to burn through the 9 minutes in case somebody
Sir,
else.
can you tell us who you are? I'm sorry.
I'm William Sanders.
William Sanders.
I live at 7468 Twin Brook Drive with my family. We're looking at a house of cards here. The boundary is wrong. They're going by, and I think what the zoning commission looked at and what you're looking at today is a boundary that existed in 1970 something when our subdivision was built. There's a legal doctrine of boundary by acquiescence, I'm sorry. And that has taken effect and it has moved the property line. Someone has come through our backyards and found the original property line and they marked it. If that person was a real estate professional, they were on constructive notice that that is no longer the boundary line. And it hasn't been for decades. They've actually been put on actual notice. Now, their solution is a survey. Well, a surveyor is going to mark the original line, or he's going to follow the instructions he's given to mark a new line. So marking the original line is just repeating the same mistake before. And I'll give you some examples. I'm at 7468. My boundary has moved some 46 feet beyond the original line since the 1970s. My yard extends 29 feet beyond the original line. I have a gravel foundation with an outbuilding on it that extends some 44 feet. So when they talk about a 30-foot buffer to me, and they're going to go based on the original line, that's a 44-foot trespass and encroachment on my property. My neighbor's property at 7470, her yard is more than 8 foot north of where the original line was in 1970. My neighbor at 7466 has an outbuilding that is over 7 foot beyond the original line. The neighbor at 7464 has a boundary of some 44 feet beyond the original line, and it's actually bordered by a fence. And then the neighbor next to him at 7460, their yard is 14 feet beyond the original line. And they actually have a rock bordered flower bed back there. Now, whoever came through and identified the original boundary could see that that was no longer the boundary. But for some reason, the planning commission was not told that, and I don't think y'all have been told that tonight. The developer has been put on constructive notice, even though that's not required by law. When he went out there, or whoever he sent out there and marked the original line, that was no longer the line. And they have been given actual notice. And we have been brushed aside with the solution being, well, we'll just get a new surveyor come out there. Well, what's a new surveyor going to do? He's going to follow the old property line. He's just going to re-identify a 70-year-old property line and not the current property line. The solution would be a boundary agreement between the owners. Get the owners to come out there and by agreement recognize where the current line is. That would be one solution. And if that fails, then the solution would be going into Chancery Court in Hamilton County and let the chancellor tell us where the property line is. So I would ask you to continue this matter for 6 months so we can actually determine where the property line is, because everything is based on a property line. 30-foot buffer sounds great to me, but it's not a 30-foot buffer. It's a 44-foot trespass and encroachment on my property. And my other neighbors are facing the same thing from 8 to 40-something feet. Of all the neighbors affected by this common boundary line, only one, does it appear to me, only one, the original property, the property line now is where it was originally. So thank you for your time. I want to give other people time
Hang
to
on, Mr.
speak.
Sanders. I got a couple questions because I'm
Sure.
trying to track this. So where's the document? Can you help me out understand where you're telling me your property line is 40 feet further than what's recorded? Where is that document?
There is no document. It's just a simple fact that if you were to walk out there in my backyard, you would see that I possess and have possessed 44 feet beyond the original property line.
So you took 44 feet at some point and made it yours.
My predecessor of title did that.
Well,
Boundary by acquiescence is similar to adverse possession, how actually it doesn't provide, it doesn't require as much.
Yeah.
But it's basically a concept of you can't sleep on your rights. It's sort of like a statute of limitations. A person owns a piece of property, a neighbor encroaches on it for 20, 30, 40 years.
It becomes theirs
It becomes theirs, exactly.
with no objection.
Right, right.
So,
And there's been
okay.
none. I've known of none up to this date.
This has been a wooded lot for quite some time. Who would know that?
The owner is responsible for knowing and protecting his rights. The court will not allow him to sleep on his rights. He's on constructive notice because it's happened and it's open and obvious. One of my neighbors his lot was as big as it is now 2 owners ago.
Yeah. Okay. So here's where I'm confused. I've sat through almost 1,500 zoning cases.
Right.
I have never seen a case where someone has taken land from somebody else and then claimed it later when they tried to rezone it. So you have to forgive me.
Sure.
This one's a little, it's like, this one's a little tricky. So Madam Attorney, I have to ask, does the rezoning at this level involve the property line, or is that going to transpire into the permitting process? I'm trying to understand if the rezoning is using the property lines as they exist now, or is this a matter that they're going to have to probably take some legal advice on through other channels?
Well, the way these conditions are written, it seems, and the answer is I don't know, and I'll research that. But it seems that the zoning issue and the boundary dispute could be separated. The zone applies to a parcel, and you could find the line independently. Is
So
that
here's
incorrect?
what I'm going to do, because this is way too complicated. I'm not going 6 months. I think that's unfair. I'm going to go for a 1-week deferral for you to talk with the property owner and see if you can work out some sort of agreement, because you've had 60 days to reach and come through planning commission, and here we are tonight, and this is a very unique situation where people have taken land that did not belong to them and then claiming they own it, and then someone who, it's very complex thing. I've never heard of this yet in all my cases. So I'm going to make a motion to defer for 1 week and see if we can't get some better answers with you working with either your attorney and or the landowner / applicant. Motion to defer 1 week.
All right, the motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments? I do have a light from Councilman Smith.
Thank you. We'll wait. Is it? Seriously? Mr. Sanders, I'm too kind of confused and have sat through umpteen numbers of these cases. The first one that I've seen like this too. I am curious of one thing. Have you been paying property taxes on that property?
No, sir.
Yeah, so you claim ownership on a piece of property that other people have been paying taxes for this entire time.
Yes, sir.
So even though you wanted it to be yours, you took it, but you didn't go down and have a deed changed, plat changed, nothing changed so that you would, by right, be paying for this property that you're using.
By right, the law is a boundary by acquiescence.
But to me,
By right.
taking something and not, by acquisitions or not, you knew you were not paying property taxes on a piece of property you were using. So to come back now and claim that it's yours, do you plan on paying back taxes to this property owner as part of this agreement?
No, sir, that's not the law.
No,
And
sir.
you've
And what
made a couple
I understand that.
You made a couple of assumptions. The yard was where it is now when I bought my house.
I get that, but that's not the property owner's fault. That's yours when you bought the house. You bought the piece of property that was deeded as that parcel. Just because that previous owner extended the property does not by law give you that piece of property if somebody else is paying taxes on it. And just now we're determining let me rephrase that. How long have you known that that was not your land?
I did not know until the line was recently marked. When I bought my house, my real estate agent told me my line was 30 feet beyond the telephone pole. Come to find out, it appears from whoever came out there that the property line is more at the telephone pole. So
I think you're probably right that this is going to end up being a chancery court issue.
yes, sir.
However, I mean, I don't see how anybody can claim a piece of property to be their own when they haven't been paying property taxes on it at this point in time. But maybe that's something that you can work out as you move forward. I just wanted to know the level of responsibility we were actually
It's
taking
not
for
a
it.
Concept.
Thank you, Mr. Sanders.
It's
I appreciate
not
it.
a concept a lot of people are familiar with,
All right,
but
Thank
it
you,
is
Mr.
the law in
Sanders.
Tennessee.
we appreciate you. Stay for just a second. The city attorney also had a comment for you, Mr. Sanders.
I just had a question, if you don't mind. When did you purchase the property?
My wife's better with numbers than I am. About 7 years ago, I think.
Okay, that's all.
All right. Thank you so
I'm
much.
not for sure. I
All
lose
right.
track of time.
That's all right. Thank you so much for your comments. All right, we had a motion on the floor to defer. I don't see any more questions or lights from the council. Are you ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye. Nays have the same right. Motion passed. Clerk, if you can read item G.
Case number 2022-0133. An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 1248, 1259, and 1281 Lester Lane from R2 residential zone and C5 neighborhood commercial zone with conditions to C2 convenience commercial zone subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Any opposition present?
Move to approve.
Okay, the motion's been properly moved in second. Are y'all ready for the question? All those in favor say aye. Nayers have the same right. Motion passed. Clerk, could you read item H?
Case number 2022-0135, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 1413 North Concord Road and 6906, 6931, 6957, and two unaddressed parcels in the 6900 block of Concord Circle from R1 residential zone, R3 residential zone, and R4 special zone with conditions to C2 convenience commercial zone subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Any opposition present? All right, give me just a second. Chairman Ledford.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. Since there's no opposition, I've been following this case for quite a while, and Mr. Price, Mr. East is not with us tonight, is he?
That's correct.
Okay, I think he's on his way to a something tomorrow. So there is a condition. If we could get the conditions on this case, please, up on screen, Karen. While we're doing that, Mr. Price, can you answer me this? There's an ongoing larger project that's going on here. And can you tell me how close that part is? Because this may actually come back to us very soon as a complete rework, all the way back through PC.
Yes, sir. Thank you. So Mike Price, MAP Engineers, just for the record. The hope is that there can be additional parcels that can be added to the current configuration to incorporate a larger design and development. But we are currently still in the process of working through that with those property owners. So we find that condition number one would be problematic as it relates to sort of the overall plan if we're able to be successful with gathering those other properties. And even if we're not, we still think it's a little overly restrictive and sort of ties our hands. So we're fine with conditions 2 and 3. It's just condition 1.
Okay. And I'm going to tend to agree with you in looking at the overall site plan and the use. So I'm going to make a motion to approve removing condition 1, and that is my motion.
Okay, it's been properly moved in second. Are there any comments or questions before the vote? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nayers have the same right. Motion passed. All right, clerk, could you read item I?
Case number 2022-0135, 0140. An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance so as to rezone properties located at 7548 and 7554 Igo Gap Road from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone and R1 residential zone subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Any opposition present? Chairman Ledford?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Since there's no opposition, I had sent some additional conditions to the clerk's office earlier today. Madam Clerk, do you have those handy? Can you read those?
Yes. Number 1, provide a 30-foot type A landscape buffer along the southern property line, of which 20 feet shall remain undisturbed. Item 2, provide a 6-foot high privacy fence on the development side of the buffer along the southern property line. Number 3, buildings along the southern property line are restricted to no more than 4 units per mass building. 4 buildings along the southern property line are restricted to
Madam
more.
Clerk, I apologize. I think that is the wrong set of conditions.
Mhm.
So that could be my error to you. That was the case that we just read. So if you'll allow me, I'm going to take this route. Motion to approve and motion to amend. I'd like to motion to amend to include these 2 conditions. Developer shall install a wooden 6-foot tall privacy fence along the eastern boundary of this development, where the property abuts the Drake Forest subdivision. Item 2, a type C landscape buffer shall be installed along the eastern boundary of this development where the property abuts the Drake Forest subdivision. Karen, I see you standing. Are you?
I believe we're on case 140, which is the IGO Gap, which is just south of the property I believe you're mentioning for the Cigna site. And I could be confused, but it just, I believe the applicant and I had prepared those conditions to present to you for the Cigna site. The 140 case, we did have the revised caption on.
Give me 1 minute. Madam Clerk, which item did we just read, please?
Should have been.
I'm working off notes from my office this morning, so I may be a little off.
Item I.
Item I.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. We are, so let me drop back here. In case, this will be an interesting little session here. In case you're following along, zoning cases can get very complicated, especially in the last minute. And when you have conditions and you have working with folks in the neighborhood along with applicants. So I apologize. So Madam Clerk, let's go back to item G and read that into the record, please. Case number 2022-0133.
Item G,
Did we just,
an ordinance to amend
all
Chattanooga
right,
City.
hang on. Did we just did G?
We did
Okay.
G. Yeah, we did G. We on I.
We are on I?
Aye.
We on item I. We did H, G, H.
Yeah.
We on I.
All right, then we're good. Item I, please. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good.
Yeah.
This heat is getting to me.
Turn that fan.
I
on.
am.
That's all right. All right. Could you read item I again for clarity?
Yes.
I need some air. I've been
Item
sitting in this
I.
heat since 3 o'clock.
Yes, I said
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 7548 and 7554 Igo Gap Road from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone and R1 residential zone subject to certain conditions.
All right. All right, let's start over. Is the applicant present? All right. Is there opposition present? No. All right, Chairman Leffler.
Okay, let's keep this on track.
Yeah.
Move to approve.
All right, it's been properly moved and second. Are there any comments before we vote? Okay, and this is not supposed to be amended, correct?
This is, no amendments here.
All right, no amendments. All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposers have the same right. Motion carried. Clerk, if you could read item J. J. Thank you.
Yes. Case
J.
Case number 2022-0145. An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 1820 and 1830 Gray Road from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse zero lot line zone subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Any opposition present?
Move to
Chairman-
approve.
All right, the motion has been properly moved and seconded. Are there any questions or comments before the vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Nays have the same right. Motion passed. Clerk, could you read item K?
Case number 2022-0146, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone properties located at 2000 Gun Barrel Road and 7555 Goodwin Road from O1 office zone to R1 residential zone, R3 residential zone, and R4 special zone, subject to certain conditions.
All right, is the applicant present? Is opposition present? Chairman Leffler.
Okay, so I'm going to get this on the floor. Can we get case number 0146 on screen, please? Move to approve and move to amend
Get a second?
with condition developer shall install a wooden 6-foot tall privacy fence along the eastern boundary of this development where the property abuts the Drake Forest subdivision. Number 2, a type C landscape buffer shall be installed along the eastern boundary of this development where the property abuts the Drake Forest subdivision. These are the conditions that were worked out with the neighborhood association, Drake Forest, and I want to make sure that they are in here, and they look like they are listed under item 3 and item 4. Karen, do you concur? Okay. You concur?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you've already added these in apparently ahead of me before my amendment. So I'm going to go ahead and move to, the amendment is to make sure these conditions are all listed. And if that's the case, then that's my motion.
All right.
All right, then I'm,
All right. So we'll go ahead and make a move on the amendment, and then we'll vote on the motion. So there'll be 2 votes, council. The first one is for the amendment. All those in favor, say aye.
move to approve as amended.
Okay. All right. All those in favor, say aye. Nayers have the same right. Motion approved. And I will move back over to my
Are you-
seat.
Are you sure?
I'm
Are you
positive.
sure? 'Cause
Watch me.
I'm melting right now. I am melting. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair.
Thank you.
Okay, it's getting hotter in here. Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Can I have that fan right on me? Woo. All right, item K. We'll now move into item L, case numbers 2022-0129, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1558 Vance Road from R2 residential zone and C2 convenience commercial zone with conditions to R3 residential zone subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Dr. Burrs, I see an applicant with no opposition. I have a motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, item M.
Case number 2022-0125, an ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1850 Newell Avenue from R1 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone subject to certain conditions.
Is the applicant present? Do you have an applicant? Is any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll, I see your light.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I make a motion to defer this until July the 19th, please.
I have a motion to defer to July 19th. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Deferred until July 19th.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk, case number 0130, item N.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone 2 unaddressed properties in the 300 block of North Highland Park Avenue from R3 residential zone to RTZ residential townhouse 0 lot line zone.
Is the applicant present? Any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll, I have no applicant. I have no opposition. What is your wish?
Make a motion to defer to July the 19th.
Have a motion to defer to July 19th with a second. All questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Thank you. Madam Clerk, case number 0139, item O.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to rezone property located at 1126 East 8th Street from URD2 urban residential detached zone to URA3 urban residential attached zone.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Knoll, have an applicant with no opposition. What is your wish?
Make a motion to approve.
Motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Motion carries. Nays? Thank you. Item P, case 0142, Madam Clerk.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 38 zoning ordinance, so as to lift condition number 2 from ordinance number 13744, or previous case number 2021-0162 for 2101 South Watkins Street.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Councilwoman Coonrod. A motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, under Parks and Public Works, item Q, please.
An ordinance to amend Chattanooga City Code, Part 2, Chapter 26, Section 2623, rental rates for municipal parks, all other municipal parks, subsection C1A, venue rates for Greenway Farm Park and Conference Center.
Councilman Hester. I have a motion to approve. Do you hear a second? Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Resolutions, Council Office, item A, Madam Clerk.
A resolution confirming the appointment of Michael Martin to the Police Advisor and Review Committee for an unexpired District 4 term through August 1, 2023.
Dr. Burrs. Thank you. Have a motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments? Is Mr. Martin in the audience by chance this evening? I do see Mr. Martin back there. Thank you for your willingness to serve on this committee, sir. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Staff will be in touch with you, sir, on the next steps. Thank you. Under Economic Development, item B.
A resolution considering short-term vacation rental application number 22 STVR 123 for property located at 705 North Holly Street.
This is in District 8. Councilwoman Knoll.
I believe we have some opposition.
Okay, would you like a full case?
Yes.
Okay. Karen?
I'm just getting my.
Oh, you're getting your stuff? There he is. Caleb, you're hiding in the back there. I thought you were going to have to hand that off to Karen.
I've been told the projector is overheating.
I wouldn't doubt it. I'm overheating, Caleb. Let's go.
705 North Holly Street, SDVR 22-123. I can give a timeline while we're waiting on the maps to show up. It was applied for on March 31st, 2022. It was reviewed the 1st, and I couldn't tell you the exact dates there on the presentation for the signs, the letters, and I can tell you it has not yet been inspected. There we go. 705 North Holly Street, 22-123. Here's the map showing surrounding STVRs. The purple are non-owner occupied, the green is owner occupied, and the one orange one is an application in process. The blue is the 705 North Holly Street. This is an overhead of the property. And these are some pictures showing the front, up North Holly, and down North Holly. So here you can see April 11th, the notice letters were mailed. April 14th, the notice sign was posted, and that brings us to today for the hearing.
All right, Caleb, I'm seeing no questions. Is the applicant present? Councilwoman Knoll, I'm actually seeing no applicant. Is there opposition present? I do see opposition. Councilwoman Knoll? Absolutely. Would you like to come to the microphone? Good evening.
Good afternoon, council members. My name is Geraldine Henry, owner of 702 North Highland Park Avenue in
Would you
Bushtown.
pull that mic down just a little bit? I want to make sure we hear you. Thank you.
Okay, let me start over.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
My name is Geraldine Henry, owner of 702 North Highland Park in Bushtown, District 8. I am in opposition of the Airbnb at 705 North Holly Street, 37404. From my understanding, there is a permitted non-owner occupied operation at 601 North Highland Park Avenue and one at 622 North Highland Park Avenue that's operating as an Airbnb. The neighborhood doesn't need another Airbnb because it brings no value or benefits. I am concerned about the homeowner's property value and who's being brought into the community. Also, I'm concerned about the gatherings in the front yard, the noise, the increase in traffic and parking. I was born and raised in Bushtown. My daughters also grew up in Bushtown because that's where my parents live. After I moved out, well, I grew up in, oops. Okay, I have witnessed how much the neighborhood has improved over the years. New homes have been built and people have been proud to make this neighborhood their place to live and raise a family and call it home. I didn't realize by speaking up about the Airbnb, I would be harassed by the owner of the property. The first time this young man came to my residence, he asked me why I opposed the Airbnb on Holly Street. He already knew because he had my letter, the letter I wrote to the city, in his hand, but I proceeded to tell him why I was in opposition. He wouldn't take no for an answer. That's when I found out he was the owner of the property. He insists I sign a letter he wrote recanting my letter, but I refused. He told me everyone else had recanted their letter and I was the only one left. I told him, let me pray over it and ask him for his information. I gave him my phone number. I immediately went and spoke to the other people who wrote opposition letters to let them know I had a visitor from the owner. I was informed he approached them the week before. Out of the 6 letters, 4 including myself, stood by our decisions. We were told only traveling nurses would be on the property, and that was among some more untruthful things. When he came to my house again, telling me I have to recant my letter, I let him know I had spoken to the others in opposition and heard what all he had said. I told him not to ever show up at my house again. No one should ever have to feel intimidated. I'm asking that his application be rejected for the Airbnb at 705 North Holly Street, Chattanooga, Tennessee, 37404. Thank you.
Councilwoman Null, if you'll hit your light. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ms. Henley, come back. Thank you. And I do want to say I'm sorry that you have been harassed. That's unacceptable on every level.
Thank you.
I spoke with 3 of the other individuals that were in opposition, so I make a motion to deny.
I have a motion to deny with a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Item is denied. Madam Clerk,
Thank you.
item C, please.
A resolution amending resolution number 31078 to confirm the surplus of the property located at 2514 East 17th Street, identified as tax map number 156FB017, and to amend the donation agreement to allow for the closing to occur on or before August 31, 2022.
Councilwoman Coonrod, this is in your district. I do hear a motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Madam Clerk, under Human Resources, items D and E, without objection from the council, will take as a package. If you'll read those both, please.
Item D, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Trevor Moore, Animal Protection Officer, as a special police officer unarmed for the McCamey Animal Center to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions. Item E, a resolution authorizing the appointment of Jason Raines, Code Enforcement Inspector, as a special police officer unarmed for the Department of Community Development to do special duty as prescribed herein, subject to certain conditions.
Dr. Burrs. Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. This is to vote on items D and E. All questions or comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Items carry. Madam Clerk, under planning, item F, please.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a new liquor store located at 541 Signal Mountain Road, Suites 229 and 235.
Councilman Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm going to move approval so the good people of District 1 have an opportunity to participate in purchasing a legally operated item.
I do have a motion to approve with a second. Questions or comments, Councilman Henderson? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Did you get that, Madam Clerk?
Yes.
Thank you. Item does carry. Without exception or without objection from the council, items, well, actually, items G and H, we'll have to do a hearing on those. Would you read item G, please?
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a residential plan unit development for properties located at 7548 and 7554 Igo Gap Road.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? All questions? This is in District 4. I can't do this one. Sorry. Yep. Vice Chairman.
All right.
Vice Chair Dotley, please.
Yes, item G. This is in our chairman's district. Any questions or comments? Chairman Ledford?
I'm good.
All right. What's your pleasure? Okay. All right. Move to approve.
We have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments on the PUD. This is to accompany an earlier rezoning case. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. Item H, Madam Clerk, please.
A resolution approving a special exceptions permit for a residential plan unit development for four parts of two properties located at 2000 Gun Barrel Road and 7555 Goodwin Road.
Is the applicant present? I do see an applicant. Is there any opposition present? Okay, I see no opposition, and I do have an applicant. This is in my district. Have a
Second.
motion to approve. I do have a second. Questions, comments? This is to also accompany a previous rezoning case that we've already read. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Parks and Public Works. I please, Madam Clerk.
A resolution authorizing the administrator for the Department of Parks and Outdoors to apply for and, if awarded, accept a grant award of $25,000 from the Boyd Foundation for the improvement of the dog park amenities at Greenway Farm.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Under Public Works, item J, please.
A resolution to amend resolution number 31112 to reflect the contract term authorizing the administrator for the Department of Public Works to execute contract number S21009101 with CTI Engineers, Inc. for landfill deficiency recommendations and repairs to the linear, leachate, and gas collection systems at the city and Summit landfills for year one of 4 in the amount of $420,000.
Have a motion to approve. I do hear a second. Questions, comments before we vote. All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries. Okay, moving on to purchases this evening. Mr. Goldberg, you've been at that microphone all day.
Yes, sir. And now we only have 21 purchases. to
21
read.
purchases.
I'll go as fast as possible. Yeah, you just want me to hand them to you and leave? All right, you ready, Mr. Chairman?
Fire away, sir.
All right, Street Maintenance Division of Public Works has 9 purchases. First is a second final renewal of 2 contracts for concrete. Ready Mix USA submitted a 19% price increase at the time of renewal for an annual amount not to exceed $300,000. TNT Concrete submitted a 10.2% price increase at the time of renewal for an annual amount not to exceed $150,000. Third, second final renewal of contract for high visibility work clothing in tall sizes. Alpha One Apparel LLC submitted a 53% price increase for some line items with an annual amount not to exceed $25,000. Next, we have second final renewal of 2 contracts for topsoil for pickup or delivery. Groundscape Concept submitted an 8.3% price increase at the time of renewal with an annual amount not to exceed $20,000. Park Equipment Inc. submitted a 22% price increase at the time of renewal with an annual amount not to exceed $15,000 for a combined annual amount not to exceed $35,000. Next, second final renewal of 2 contracts for personal protective safety equipment. Rolade Industrial Supply Inc. submitted a 33% price increase for some line items with an annual amount not to exceed $25,000. Environmental and Hygiene Safety submitted a 21.5% price increase for some line items with an annual amount not to exceed $15,000 for a combined annual amount not to exceed $40,000. The 8th item is second and final renewal for a contract for manhole components. Aitchison Foundry and Machine Works Inc. submitted a 36% price increase at the time of renewal with an annual amount not to exceed $110,000. 9th item is 2 new blanket contracts for lumber and lumber products. 2 bids were received and the awards go to Evans Lumber Company with an annual amount not to exceed $55,000 and River City Remodeling with an annual amount not to exceed $20,000. These will be 4-year contracts with a combined annual amount not to exceed $75,000. 10th item is from Parks Maintenance Division of Parks and Outdoors. It's a new blanket contract for grounds maintenance for Riverwalk Extension. 5 bids were received, and the award goes to Landscape Associates, Inc. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $100,000. The next 5 are from the Waste Resources Division of Public Works. Second final renewal of 3 contracts for electrical services. The vendors are Adman Electric, Inc., Nabco Electric Company, Inc., and Tri-State Electrical Contractors. Nabco submitted a 2% price increase at the time of renewal. The combined annual amount is not to exceed $5.5 million, and this is from the Interceptor Sewer Enterprise Fund. New blanket contract for janitorial and custodial services. 4 bids were received, and the award goes to Custom Custodial. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $75,000. New blanket contract for vibration analysis and infrared thermographic services. 2 bids were received, and the award goes to Current Technologies, Inc. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $45,000. Item 14, new blanket contract for CPEX pump parts. 1 bid was received. The bid was re-advertised and yielded no additional bids. The award goes to Southern Sales Company. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $60,000. Next, we have the purchase of 2 conveyor screws. 1 bid was received. The bid was re-advertised and yielded no additional bids. This is for the wastewater treatment plant. The award goes to BAR Environmental, and the amount is $59,500. And final item for the Waste Resources Division. No, that was the final item. Item 16, Chattanooga Police Department, price increase for removal and an installation of carpet, LVT, and cove base. Council approved the original amount of $29,780 on March 8th, 2022. This is a request to increase by $3,600 for a new total amount of $33,380. This is for additional LTV instead of carpet as originally requested. The next 3 items are from finance. First, we have a new blanket contract for summer camp for children with disabilities. This is a sole source procurement from Signal Centers, Inc. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed $40,000. Item 18, new blanket contract for urban design services. This is a sole source procurement from Chattanooga Design Studio. This will be a 1-year contract with an amount not to exceed $125,000. Number 19, new blanket contract for recording, editing, and broadcasting the weekly highlights of the Chattanooga City Council meetings. This is a sole source procurement from WTCI PBS. This will be a 1-year contract with an amount not to exceed $80,000. Next, from the Fleet Management Division of Public Works, we have a renewal of a contract for Harley-Davidson motorcycle service and repairs. White Lightning Harley-Davidson submitted a 26% 26% price increase for certain lines with an amount not to exceed, annual amount not to exceed 25,000. And finally, with early learning, we have a new blanket contract for janitorial services for Head Start centers. 7 bids were received and the award goes to TNT Cleaning LLC. This will be a 4-year contract with an annual amount not to exceed 125,000.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. You've heard tonight's purchases, which is actually an accumulation of 2 weeks of purchases. Dr. Burrs?
We reviewed all of these previously, we're just not reviewing them. They had to be read into the record, and so now in the record.
Very good. I have a motion to approve. Do have a second. Questions, comments on purchases this evening? Before we vote, all those in favor say aye. Opposed? Purchases carry. We have 2 RFPs this evening.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we are requesting approval to issue RFPs, not approval to award any contracts at this time. These are both from the Regional Planning Agency, seeking professional services from a multidisciplinary team, including land use planners, transportation planners, and engineers to provide a general vision and guide for future development. The approach and scope is more important than price, therefore an RFP is necessary. The first RFP is for 6 area plans within the city of Chattanooga, and the second RFP is for 4 area plans within unincorporated Hamilton County.
Very good. And this afternoon in our agenda session, Mr. Reuter did give us an overview on the specifications for the 2 RFPs. If I can get a motion? I have a motion to approve the RFPs. I do have a second. Questions, comments before we vote? All those in favor say aye. Opposed? Item carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Goldberg. Now moving into committee reports. Councilwoman Coonrod.
Chair, today we had a Economic Development Committee on TIFs, and also we discussed the stadium, and we're scheduled to have a follow-up Economic Development Committee meeting on July the 19th.
Thank you. Councilwoman Knoll?
Chair, I'm not sure. Did we get the date for the
I don't believe we have set that date. I'll confirm with you, though. Okay.
Thank you.
Dr. Burrs? Okay. Councilwoman Hill? Councilman Smith? Councilman Hester?
We did meet today. We'll meet again in 2 weeks. Thank you.
Madam Vice Chair? Thank you. We do have other business. We have a certificates of compliance for a Signal Mountain Wine and Liquor Store that will require signatures. If you'll pass that around, Madam Attorney, whichever direction you'd like. I'll keep this going while we keep going. And that will move us into recognitions of persons wishing to address the council this evening. If it's about the heat, we get it. We're working on it. But anyone wishing to address the council tonight, please come forward. And while you do, Madam Attorney, will you please read the rules of the council, please?
Each speaker wishing to address the council shall be recognized at this podium. Please line up. Please address the council only upon matters within the legislative and quasi-judicial authority. Each speaker can have 3 minutes unless a permission for additional time is granted. And we ask that you not use vulgar or obscene language.
All right. Good evening.
Hi.
Yep, there we go. Can you tell us your name, please, and what district you live in?
My name is Kiana George, and I don't have a district technically because I'm homeless. Mostly today, I'm up here to address the council, but also say to the people that are up here about to speak to the council that over the past couple of weeks while I've been here, I've witnessed a lot of my peers and colleagues, the kind of somewhat disrespect that they can get. And so I am taking it upon myself to say, I'm up here to stand with whoever is going to be speaking so that way they don't have to address the council by themselves. So that is my offer of support. So if you want to talk to me, and I encourage some of the city council members to do this as well, I would like to know some of your names and talk more about why you spoke tonight. So thank you.
Well, that was sweet. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Good evening.
Good evening. I'm RC Reeves. I'm from District 5. And today I just wanted to follow up. I think about a month or so ago, individuals here in District 5, we had some discussion around some of the requests that we wanted to see in the Woodmore area. So I wanted to follow up just to make sure that that is staying top of mind. We discussed some of the beautification that we wanted to see, and this is around the Tucker Baptist area, but also we have some other developments. We had a town hall with Councilman Helster a few weeks ago as well. And during that conversation, we got some information around the services that the city offers. So I'm coming back to the council tonight to say, again, that we want to see those services in our area. We don't want to just have dialogue about that. We want to actually see that. There has been discussion about how we are changing from kind of the parks and recs to it being the community center and having that different engagement, having the health component, et cetera. But we have not seen that yet at our Brainerd Center. We have had discussion as we're increasing density in the Woodmore area. And it's greater than just this constant conversation around grocery stores. I'm wanting to see just beautification of the area, adding the sidewalks, adding different programs in our area, making sure that we have services that are going to support our seniors that we know that will be coming into that area in a few years. We have to start now in having those services being planned, being intentional, so that those things can be in our area. And it's very important to me. I've expressed to several of you before, but I'm from the Woodmore area. I have property in the area. My parents still live there. They're retired. And so for me, it's very important that I bring that back to the council to let you know that I'm just not someone that's just, here for a moment. I'm attending the meetings, I'm being present, and I'm available to have the discussion. But we want to actually see the services and the things that have been brought to the table actually come to our area, and not just a lot of housing. We want to see that the services that are being offered across the city are actually in the Woodmore area in District 5. So thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Oh, hang on one sec. Hang on, Ms. Mott. Councilman Henderson?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dr. Lambert, you were telling me that we were getting some nurses to put into our community centers. Can you give us an update on that? And I know one of them was particularly the Brainerd Rec Center because I had asked about that. And
good evening. Yes, that is correct. We actually have hired our lead nurse navigator. We have the first registered nurse navigator for Chattanooga assigned to 4 of the community centers. The next one to be staffed is Brainerd. We actually have a line on an individual who's applying, who will be a great asset to that community. And what we're doing right now is assigning a registered nurse navigator to the community centers for a nurse health clinic for vaccinations, referral to needed primary health care services and other needs, blood pressure checks, that kind of thing. So we're real pleased with that. The community seems to be receiving really well, but Brainerd is the next center, the next hire. One of her assignments will be, his or her assignments will be the Brainerd Center.
okay, and do we anticipate a timeline there? What we could expect?
I am working with Human Resources with respect to getting the paperwork, the application processed into our office, to my office, so that we can interview that individual and get that person on board. The sooner we can get them, the better. We are so anxious to have the person on board.
So all the paperwork's in process. It's just a matter of working through that and
Yes.
getting this person hired.
Yes.
All right, thank you, ma'am.
Mhm. You're welcome.
Thank you, Councilman. Ms. Reeves, I don't know if you know Dr. Lambert. Okay, great. Very good. Thank you. Thank you for that update, Dr. Lambert. Evening, Ms. Mott.
Good evening.
There you go.
Marie Mott, District 8. Unless one lives and loves in the trenches, it is difficult to remember that the war against dehumanization is ceaseless. Audre Lorde. I have some questions and rather some comments about ARP funding. We have $5.8 million that's going to be awarded for affordable rental housing creation. How many affordable units will that provide? I think that needs to be made public so the public understands how much we're getting for that money. Two, my concern about CNE, Kingdom Partners, and the Urban League of Chattanooga double dipping and as recipients for funds under either the same category or multiple categories. To me, that I think that's very unfair that so many people apply to be recipients of these funds and that individuals and organizations get multiple rounds of funding. CNE got $1 million in one category, $1 million in another. Under workforce development, there's $500,000 for capital investment for the Urban League, another $1 million. To me, that's not fair. And I think that that needs to be addressed. And also, any council person who has paid or unpaid positions on boards or committees for nonprofits that are being awarded should resign before they get any funds. And if you have a spouse or a family member that's going to be awarded any funding, I think you should abstain from voting, because I think that is a conflict of interest if you are awarding dollars to an organization where you might be the executive director. Furthermore, a couple of weeks ago, I submitted a comprehensive plan for gun violence to council persons. I want to thank Councilwoman Hill and Councilwoman Rakita Dotley for just letting me know that they even received it. I hope you guys read it. But I've heard some chatter about a gun violence plan. And from some of the things that I've heard, parts of what I have proposed are a part of that plan. Now, one thing that has happened far too often over the course of history is that African Americans who are brilliant, intelligent, who are smart, who are articulate, who have ideas and bring them forth, or ingenuity or inventions, that we often do not get credit for our work or not brought to the table when decisions are being made. That is outright theft. And considering I work full-time, I'm running for city council, I'm a part of the NAACP, I've been coming to these meetings for 6 years, it is disingenuous for anybody to take any level of credit for the legwork that I put in absolutely for free when city council members and people within the mayor's office had no plans whatsoever. I put together a plan, and to see parts of that just utilized is outright theft and disrespect towards my intelligence as a Black woman.
Evening, sir.
I am Mr. Boston. I'm no stranger to City Council. I'm no stranger to Chattanooga, Tennessee. I come to relate what Ms. Mott has said about this budget. Do y'all want to see Chattanooga safe, or do y'all want to see it corrupt? Right now, Chattanooga is one of the fourth richest cities in the world. How I know that? I own All-Star Bundling Company. I deal with the shooters. I deal with the murders before the police get them, before the investigate them. They come and see me first. I'm the one bundling them out. I'm the one talking to them. I'm the one can walk the neighborhoods with no guns, get respect. It's going to be a problem. I think y'all should readvise. Some of the people are getting the same money. Some people got $300,000 from the county commission, then they get money from the city. I run the organization. I run these streets. I'm Chattanooga. I'm no stranger. I'm on TV. I'm in magazines. I'm in the streets. I've been here all my life. Been fighting. I was once in them urban child in Carver Center, Boone Heights. My family runs the streets, know the names of the streets. The police department, I'm pretty, they already know who I am. So we got to take this thing serious. Crime is up in my city. The organizations y'all giving the money to don't go out in the streets like I do. Don't see the gangbangers. Don't see the drug dealers. They my friends, my classmates, my family members. I fight hard for my city. I don't have no problem with the city, because you know what? If y'all gonna play this game, y'all gonna make the city worse and worse, because the people that's getting the money can't go in the community like I can in my people. We own stuff. We self-made. I'm not wanting no money from no city. I don't want to rent nothing. The guys I deal with, me and my team, we buy property here in the city. And I demand the city council take this stuff serious. I had a cousin that had Mary's Lounge. I'm in Nashville doing a party. My Uncle Tony called me, his granddaughter got killed. You know what? I know the streets. Luckily, I went on the scene. Because you know what happened? When Mr. Boston on the scene, I so happened to hit Facebook, Instagram. I go viral all the time. Enough is enough. The same people getting the same money and nothing's happening in my streets. My streets, the police department can't do it by themselves. It's gonna take the community to do it. I got people willing to work, but they ain't getting paid no money. So why should they want to work? And I ain't gonna let them work, because the same people keep getting the money and can't do nothing about it, the streets. I'm a street dude, born a street dude, but I'm a lover of God. I love y'all. I just want my city to feel safe. Every day I see criminals. I deal with this 22 years. I'm at the jail every day. I'm in the court system every day. Somebody gets shot, my phone rings 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning. Somebody gets stabbed, I get the phone call. You guys, any preacher, any city leader in the city, they know who I am. But I ain't no Uncle Tom, and I ain't no groupie. I'm self-made, I got my own money, and I don't want nothing about it. I just want y'all to do stuff decent in order, do right. And go back and look at this budget that y'all have passed and giving free money away. The people that's got this stuff going on, they're not doing enough for my community because we ain't gonna let them in our community because we don't like phony people in our community. Please help us. That's all I'm asking. And each one of y'all gotta come up for the re-election again. Let's do this thing right. I'm Mr. Boston, okay? And y'all can watch my radio station Saturday from 12 to 1. Y'all know I'll be talking about it some more. Thank you.
Thank you. Good to see you again.
Good day. Good
Good
day.
evening.
My name is Jairam Basad, 1622 North Concord, District 4, Public Works. Hey, so I'll try to make it quick. It's hot. So I got a grievance response from the city. This grievance response from management. Please, going forward, take these issues to management first, and they can resolve to the lowest EIG. EIG is just a guide. You know what I'm saying? If I want to file a grievance, I have the chance to do it informally or formally, 5 days or whatever. The city ordinance say, number 108, section 2, 176B, an employee is not required. So I choose that, not required. So I'll try to make it fast. So the next one is, I don't want to bring out the highlight of the person job title, but I'm going to put the class code as AP00110, Public Works. All right, so the starting salary is $106,221, $106,221. The top out salary is $159,332. The city hired this guy at $156,000. $156,000. On July 1st, the city gave this guy a 3% increase, take him to $160,680. I'm going to repeat. The top out salary is $159,332. The guy is overage $1,540 overage. This here says bargain unit, none. How this person could start with $156,000? Right. We have people at Public Works. Public Works right on here. A guy 50 years never topped out. But a guy who just is 1 year, less than 1 year in the city, topped out. And we paying him an overage of So I think it's just kind of unfair because we are taxpaying guys. We live in a city. And for you to go and pay a guy outside that kind of money to come into the city who never paid $1 in tax, it's kind of like, it's like injustice to the city workers because the city workers pay tax for 23 years. Oh, this guy paid tax for 50 years and he can't top out. And he a crew worker one. I'm not going to call the name of the guy, but you all know the guy. You all give him an award. So I'm just saying that you all should look into it and do something about it. Thank you.
Thank you. Evening.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Mark Shackelford, Shackelford Towing and Recovery. And I basically am here today based on the recommendation of the Record Board to try to figure out where we might be in line or in turn to get a revision of the record ordinance with the city and ultimately looking for a rate increase. The few council folks that I have spoke to over the last 6 to 9 months all understand that this ordinance is over 18 years old. Obviously, I was a new guy in the towing industry working for Denton's Record Service many years ago when this thing was revised, and It actually took litigation to get it done. And the Beer and Record Board basically recommended that I come to council to try to figure out, are we any closer to a work group committee or some other form of group to try to get some sort of revision and a modification. I feel like that our new record inspectors are kind of handcuffed with some things that they don't have any control over, and it's a big issue for us. The towing companies are behind what I've got to say, and we'll be down here, in the future in groups to try to elaborate and role play and get everyone to understand that, not only our trucks and costs of equipment and fuel and labor costs of, all four went sky high. And, a lot of you guys are business owners, and y'all know that, pen and paper doesn't lie. And simple math will tell you that, I used to buy trucks for $55,000, and my last one was $125,000 to $150,000, depending on options. So, we're at a rate of 125 and 135 currently, daytime and nighttime rates, with very little exceptions for additional fees. And we're just looking to amend the ordinance to make it where a tower that wants to get involved in the rotation for the City of Chattanooga Police Department would meet some stiffer requirements and also accommodate the guys that are paying the bills. I've got currently 6 trucks on rotation. We operate 24/7, and we provide a great service to the citizens. And, my insurance is 10 grand a truck per year. So, I'm at $60,000+, not including, payroll taxes and workers' comp and all that good stuff. So I'm really just looking for some advice and some answers from you guys, if you will.
Very good. So, I'll chime in too. Dr. Burris, go ahead.
So what district do you live in?
I live in the city of Ringgold, Georgia, but my business is operated at 2917 Calhoun Avenue.
Okay, where I was going with that is we do have a legislation committee.
Okay.
And I was thinking that one of the council people might sponsor. That's why I asked.
Okay.
Where you are. Where is your business located?
2917 Calhoun Avenue.
And
It's
the
at
district?
30th in Calhoun. It's right on the line based on what I
That's you?
looked up on the maps.
Is that you? Well, yeah, so you're saying that you're looking for somebody for us to review.
Well, I'd had a conversation with Joda in the mayor's office probably two and a half months ago.
Uh-huh.
And after some push, I got finally in contact with Chris Anderson, had a great conversation with him. But, I understand the priorities, and, we're not looking to, pull any strings here. I know they're busy. We just want to get on the agenda and get something done about it, because the beer board and the record board meets here every other Thursday, and I come stand at the same podium and ask the same questions, and I've got the same answers. So at this point, what do we do? And like I said, we've got a brand new sergeant, Sergeant Wood with the beer and record board, and Mosier, Phil Mosier, and both of those guys.
So you've brought your request to the Beer and Record Board.
Absolutely. And
the Beer and Record Board has said what?
Well, the Beer and Record Board says that it's my obligation to come to council, that they only administer and dish out punishment when necessary, and administer the regulation and the law that you guys create. And
the Beer and
so,
Record Board can always ask us to look at the registration.
They won't do it. And if you read the Chattanoogan from last Thursday, the Chattanoogan was reported in here, and they basically agreed that we were as the towing industry were to come to council, that there was nothing more that they could do. And it's basically been said.
Yeah.
Mark, I appreciate
All right,
you.
we have other people that want to comment on there. The Beer and Record Board, at any time, the chair can bring forward to us, if that's the wish of the board, any legislation that they want looked at. But my colleagues have something to say.
To your comment, Ms. Burge, the reason I came last week was to just get on the record with the stenographer that I had came once again. And when I did that, I did ask the Beer and Record Board to have a member accompany me to a meeting like this, so that we could all agree that it's their understanding that they can't do anything about what we're asking for. And we didn't get any real good volunteers in that conversation.
Thank you for your input.
Absolutely.
Several of my colleagues have something to say.
Thank you.
Mark, I just wanted to add in that I appreciate it. I know you were in my office the other day. I
Sure.
couldn't, I
Thank
couldn't
you.
talk with you, but I appreciate you coming by. I was on another matter.
Absolutely.
But I think that what we would probably feels like the most direct path would be to ask for some sort of rate study to figure out what that would be. For us to pick a number and throw the dart would probably be irresponsible. But I think that would be something that maybe we could ask for some help on, and I'm certainly willing to help you out with that and make that request. So why don't you and I talk offline and we
Sure.
can maybe formulate a little better plan.
Absolutely. I think that would be a great study, and I'm backed by 40 plus vendors in the city that would give data and information. I mean, I'm a plethora of information, and one of the ladies made a comment at the meeting the other day that she's like, I didn't know anything about the towing industry before you came along, and you inundated us with good information, and we're able to make some logical decisions by doing so.
Let's do that offline, and I want to keep us to our time
Okay.
limits today, but I appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
And we'll you know how to get in touch with me.
Sure.
So
Yes, sir.
very good. Thanks, Mark.
Thank you.
Any other comments on this particular subject? Anybody else wishing to address council this evening? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.